Hello, Commanders, and welcome to another day in Star Trek Fleet Command. Today's video is one I've been thinking about for a while now. Someone in my alliance had mentioned, one of our more knowledgeable players, he had mentioned about how he had tested some different crews with some of the more recent officers against the Swarm, and I thought, that's interesting. I want to do some testing, actual testing, and see what works best. And part of the reason I think I put it off is because, well, honestly, with the freebooters, we don't have to really do Swarm, except once in a while when they have a Swarm event where hitting hostiles, you need to do that for an event to score. So we have one today, and I thought, why not do some testing and put out a video to let people know my findings? And so here I am in Belem, which is the highest level system I can hit right here. And so your level is going to change depending upon where you're at. These pink, purple, gas-looking areas in space is where you're going to take your Franklin A, most likely to hit hostiles. So I will talk about the crews I used, and then I also want to kind of explain the logic why we use, or why I use those specific crews to hit those hostiles. So this is the crew that I have been using up to this point. So you have Kang, you have Strange New World, Spock, and Jayla. So with Kang, for those who aren't as familiar, his captain's ability has a minus max, so that may affect how effective your crews are as well. So keep that in mind. But 80% chance of dealing a hull breach as the captain, and his officer ability is he's going to increase the accuracy of the ship. And that is really important because these Swarm, if I pull up, actually, we'll pull up one in the system. I think that will be more effective. So if we scan one of these, and they're an interceptor, so hopefully for those who don't know, this is helpful. And for you who know this, you can ignore this part, but interceptors have as their strongest statistic for defense dodge. Shield deflection and armor are for other type of ships. So interceptors have dodge. That's where they get their mitigation, and that's where they are going to reduce the incoming damage from. And so you have to overcome that by accuracy in this case for dodge. And so you want to have someone like Kang that increases your accuracy, hopefully significantly, so that you can overcome that and do more damage. So that's the reason why I tested with Kang there. So I'll hop back into the crew selection here. Strange New World Spock. He increases armor, shield deflection, and dodge by a certain percentage depending upon the tier of total defense when attacking hostile interceptors from an explorer. So we have an interceptor, which is a Franklin A. We're hitting, we have an explorer, and we're hitting interceptors, which are the Swarm. And then Jayla is super effective on these hostiles because when she is attacking, depending upon your tier of Jayla, and mine, I want to say I only have her at tier 1. Let's see here. Yep, just tier 1. And so that's the crew I have been using. And then I just had this below deck crew here. Probably could have put a little bit different crew here because maybe I didn't need to keep the shields up as much. But definitely having Hugh below decks is going to be helpful. Tom Paris for extra mitigation for my ship to reduce incoming damage and so forth. So what was proposed in my alliance chat was, let's think about isolytic damage. So what kind of officers do we have that deal isolytic damage? Well, you've got Janeway, Captain Janeway. You've got Picard. You've got Data. Those officers are going to provide some extra damage. And it was interesting. It's a significant amount when you have certain officers. Now, one thing I could have done, which I didn't do when I was testing, so this will impact it maybe a little bit. But if you put Harry Kim below decks, when he pops based upon your artifact research, I guess we'll call it, he will increase your isolytic damage when he's on an explorer that has morale, which he does as a below deck officer. So that's one thing that you could try in your crew setup as well. So let me hop over to Spots Club, where I ran a test. Oh, and here real quick, I was going to show this too. This is just an example of the firing pattern. This one happens to be a 44 swarm target. They have multiple kinetic weapons and energy weapons. Energy weapons fire every single round. And this is one reason why Pike Maro Chen isn't going to be super helpful, or Pike Maro Talon necessarily. I mean, it has its benefits for sure, but those will only reduce the damage for one type of weapon, kinetic or energy. So I found that it's not as useful. So anyways, there's a firing pattern, both kinetic and energy weapon. So here is Spots Club, and for the sake of time, I won't go into super long detail on this. And it's weird, for some reason, Spots Club does not show Jayla in the picture here, but every one of these has Jayla in the crew. So the one on the right is the one I just showed you. Going over from right to left, I've got Janeway Kang, still using the accuracy there. And the theory is, okay, maybe that's going to get more damage past their mitigation. So Janeway, Kang, and Jayla. We've got Picard, Data, and Jayla. And then we've got Janeway, Data, and Jayla. The tough part, I guess, with this testing is if you don't have Jayla, she can be difficult to source, but she's going to make a huge difference in your gameplay. So even though this test is geared towards using Jayla as an officer, you can still substitute someone else in there if you don't have her for your testing. But I'm talking about, through this testing, the basic methodology for your own crew testing and what I found helpful, and kind of explaining it as I go, so you can kind of come up with your own crews if you happen to not have Jayla. Okay, so based upon this test, and the reason why I think these are so helpful is that when you're popping criticals especially, but the Franklin has this advantage of doing so much extra damage against the ships, that as you're talking about officers that do extra isolytic damage like Data and Janeway and Picard, they do significant amount of damage, especially with Jayla doing the extra shots per round, that it really makes a big difference. And it makes it so that Kang, Spock, Jayla are not necessarily the most effective crew. So in this, we look at estimated kills per hull. We're pretty close with the Janeway, Data, Jayla as the Janeway, Kang, Jayla crew setup. We're about 33 and a half. I don't know where it gets half. It's just a numbers game with how it calculates it here. But it's definitely better than the other two. It's better than the meta most effective tactic available that I used to use, or I think most people used to use, which was Kang, Spock, Jayla. So that's interesting. One interesting thing to note is that although you get less kills per hull with the Picard as the captain, Picard, Data, Jayla, you're going to get more loot. So if you're trying to level up or grind quickly some parts to upgrade your ship, then that might be an option that you want to consider, because Picard will significantly increase the amount of loot that you're getting with him and Data there. Total damage done. Looks like we still have Kang as doing the most damage, probably because of his hull breach. More goes to the hull, does more damage. Damage taken, we still have more mitigation, I think, here. Let's see. We scroll down a little bit. It's pretty close, but the mitigation percentage is greatest on the far to right. And those are the ones where we have Kang, I guess, as captain. And Jayla, or Janeway reduces your damage, the incoming damage as well, which you have to think about it in this way. And for those who haven't looked at it too much, let's actually pull up that. Oops, where am I going there? I need to go to officers. So let's find Janeway real quick and look at her officer card. Talk about her abilities, especially the captain's maneuver. Let's see, Janeway, I go, there we go. Janeway is only tier 1. So her isolytic is 10% against non-player hostiles and armadas, which is a pretty significant compared to the others. And it's all going to be dependent upon the level of your officers too. This may be even more effective if your officers are higher tiered than mine. But reminder, when you take hull damage from a non-player hostile or armada, Catherine Janeway increases your shield mitigation by 6% for 1 round. And then she has, if you pair any Voyager crew with her, you could increase that by another 14%, 7% for each officer. So you could actually test and see, okay, this is something I didn't do for this video, but you could do Janeway, the EMH Doctor if you have him, because he's going to not only provide mitigation, but he's also going to provide synergy to Janeway. I still like Jayla as doing the extra damage, but if you're trying to find, okay, how do I reduce incoming damage, Janeway does a great job. But the problem here that you need to remember is that more is going to go to the shields. So the incoming damage is reduced, but if your shields can't keep up with it and your shields go down, then you're in trouble. It's going to go all to your hull. So that's something that you want to consider as you are doing your testing based upon the level of your ship and your research and so forth. So we have the greatest mitigation, I said, for those two. Hull damage, it looks like damage taken is the lowest with the Janeway as the captain. And that is pretty close, just a little bit better than adding data on the crew there. And that's probably because, let's see here, do we have the rounds? They both went 3 rounds. But ultimately, it's close. It's not that much different. So what do we get from this? Well, we get that there is a significant difference in being able to take out these hostiles quicker by doing them more damage, but having an officer on your bridge that is going to reduce the incoming damage. I would focus on these 3 officer setups to the right and see which one might fit for you the best and test it out. It looks like if you're just trying to knock out as many hostiles without repairing, you definitely want Janeway as captain. If you happen to not have data, or if maybe you have Kang, but he's a tier 1, like just an intro officer, then Data might be the best officer you're going to want to go for this setup. Like I said, if you don't have Jayla, one thing you could try is putting, you could put Kang there. If you don't have Jayla, what else could you do? You could put the EMH Doctor. You could put someone there that's just going to reduce the damage. You might try another option for some of the players who don't have a ton of officers. You could try the Blue Beverly. And there's so many. I want to make sure that you guys know which one I'm talking about. And why do I keep going to Alliance? Okay. Apparently clicking and talking at the same time is confusing my brain. Okay, so if we go to officers, let's go by group. This is going to be the next generation kind of crew. Let's see, where are they at? Right. Oh, there we go. I was looking for card and scanning down. So Beverly Crusher, right here, she will have some mitigation that she will give you to your ship. She's a good option to throw in there. So the great thing about crews is that there are multiple options that you could select from, and you'll have to kind of test and find out which one works the best for you. But hopefully the information I provide in this video not only shows you per testing, actual testing, the best meta in the game that I've been able to come up with, but hopefully it'll give you an idea of the ways you can look at your officers and say, you know what, if Isolytic is so effective, what officers do I have? Do I have Picard? Do I have Data? Do I have Janeway? If not, it might tell you, okay, let's watch for some events to try and get those to help me, so when these events come around, they're quite a bit easier. It won't be something that you'll probably do on a regular basis for some players who are doing the freebooters now, but this really will help in this event, so you just knock it out quickly and be done. Or if you want to work on investing in your ship, you know a crew that can help you out with that. So hopefully the ideas have kind of gotten your brains turning on, and you can look at your cruise and find out the best setup that will work for you. Before I go, please remember that your support is truly appreciated. I try to read every single comment, try and reply to the ones as I can, but I do read every single one of them. Your help is truly appreciated, and if you haven't subscribed, you're new to this channel and you like the information, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that thumbs up and the bell notification so you can be aware of future content as I bring it out. I appreciate all that you do, all your comments and all your help, and I hope you enjoy your day today in Star Trek Fleet Command, and I'll talk to you soon.